Welcome back. Next, I would like to share a third activity found in the Growing Up Wild guide. It is from the Owl Pellets unit on pages 46 and 47 in the guide. In preparation, you will need to get a supply of sterilized owl pellets, either locally or online. I like to order the larger size pellets for use with preschool children, and websites I have used in the past are Nature Watch or Carolina. You will also need to provide paper plates, tweezers, wooden probes, and a magnifying glass for students to use. Depending on the age of the students, you can choose to do this as solely a group activity or with an introduction group activity and then in small groups with teacher supervision. It is very important to get parental permission for this activity. Some parents may not want their child touching the pellets or bones because of asthma or animal hair allergies, or for cultural or religious reasons. When you are ready to start this unit, begin by asking children if they have ever seen a bird eating. How did it eat? What was it eating? What other foods do birds eat? And list their ideas on chart paper or on a whiteboard. Next, show children one of the owl pellets, and without telling them what it is, explain that it is something made by a bird. Ask them what they think it might be. And here on the screen, you'll see an enlarged version of an owl pellet. At this point, if you were strictly doing this as a group activity, you can get down on the floor. I like to have a plastic tray and start dissecting the pellet for the children. If you're going to have the children do this themselves with teacher supervision, you will provide each pair of children an owl pellet on a paper plate and then the dissecting tools that I mentioned earlier, including a wooden probe and tweezers. It's important to have some additional small containers so that as the children work to separate the materials in the pellet apart, they can organize what they find. Explain to children that they may touch and gently pull apart this object with their hands. They may also use the dissecting tools to help them see what is inside. As they pull apart the object, they may separate and sort different kinds of things on the plate or into containers. As children examine their pellets, ask, what do you notice about this object? What is inside of it? What does it feel like? And allow groups to share their ideas and discoveries. And continue to ask questions about their observations to help them guess what the objects are. How might the bird have gotten the fur and bones? What kind of bird could do this? Introduce the term predator and the term prey, and ask them if they can think of any birds that are predators. How were these objects made? Why do they think so? So in the next few pictures, I have a group of teachers doing this activity as part of a workshop, and you will see that these teachers are working on taking apart their owl pellets and making observations. So in this first picture, you will see there's a plate with the owl pellet in being pulled apart. And here's another teacher using her wooden probe and some tweezers to carefully take her owl pellet apart and discover what is inside. And here's another teacher working on this with two wooden probes and her tweezers, and she's separating out the items that she's found inside the owl pellet as she's taking items apart. And here's a close-up. You'll see that the bones are quite small, so if you're working with really small children, this is something that you would want to do and have them observe as you're dissecting that owl pellet. And then finally, there is an owl pellet bone sorting chart. In the Growing Up Wild guide, there is a Blackline Master with a much simpler bone chart. So depending on the age of your children, you can start with just a simple bone chart, or if they're at the point where they're more curious, about the different types of bones. I found this one online in a PDF format, and it has the different kinds of things you might find, from rodents to moles to shrews, and how the different bones might look. Here's another close-up of that bone chart. And then finally, with any unit, I like to include books and literature. And our Reading Library, if you have access to the branch here locally, has a great variety of owl books for young children. A couple of them that I recommend is this particular book, which is called Owls by Josh Gregory. It has some great pictures and factual information about owls in it. The next one is Owls by Wayne Lynch. Again, it has great information and pictures to share with the children on owls and their life cycle and their habitat and so forth. And then finally, there's an illustrated book called Barn Owl that has beautiful illustrations and sort of shares the life cycle of the barn owl and its habitat and its habits at night. That will wrap up our third activity, and I look forward to sharing this activity with you in person in April, and we'll see you then.